It's Monday, the 22nd of August, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, we have 5 stories to get through in 5 minutes. Story number 1, this is really interesting. Australian coal companies are hitting multi-decade highs at the moment. They're printing huge profits, but it is happening just as solar surpasses coal in terms of generation into the national electricity market.
On Friday at lunchtime, solar supplied more generation than coal into the national electricity market for the first time ever. Now, there's been some extraordinary circumstances, coal-fired power plant breakdowns, supply shortages, but it just shows how quickly renewables are catching fossil fuels. It only happened for 35 minutes, but it happened. Renewables provide about 1/3 of the electricity supply in Australia's grid, according to The Australian. The Labor government wants renewables to provide more than 80% by 2030. Meanwhile, while this is going on, the coal companies are having the best time they've had in years. Thermal coal prices have risen again, and Whitehaven, New Hope and Yancoal share prices are at decade highs. In fact, those companies are 3 of the top 4 performers on the ASX over the past year. On Friday, Yancoal posted a record half-year profit of $1.7 billion. 12 months ago, it lost $129 million. Quite incredible. Will it go on? Well, look, the shift to renewables is inevitable and it will speed up, not slow down as technology improves. But Yancoal Chief Executive David Moult made a good point on Friday. He said European buyers will stick with Australian thermal coal because they realise they need to diversify their supply. It is a golden age for energy companies, no matter what type of energy you're producing.
All right, on to story number 2. And how's this for a bit of blunt and honest feedback, Sean? It seems Australia's skilled migration system is needlessly complex. Plenty of red tape there, apparently, and it needs to be revamped if we actually want to attract workers to come to Australia.
The Deloitte Access Economics report released yesterday said Australia's labour market was a standout success during the COVID-19 pandemic, as evidenced by the unemployment rate at a 48-year low of 3.4%. Also positive was the labour force participation rate. But the support from the government now needs to pass over to the private sector, and Australia needs to show that it's open for business by cutting red tape, according to Deloitte. Otherwise, we won't get the skilled migrants in that we need.
Okay, story number 3. Now, Sean, we are still technically in winter. We're not in spring yet, but you might be forgiven for thinking that we are because over the weekend we had auction volumes picking up and clearance rates lifting across the country.
In fact, Michael, the proportion of homes sold hit a 12-week high based on CoreLogic's preliminary figures. The combined capital city clearance rate was 62.6%. Anecdotally, it's unique or high-quality properties that are doing best. But as we run into the spring selling season, this is really good news. Now, some forecasters are suggesting property prices, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, will fall between 15 and 20%. They are nowhere near that yet. They're probably half that sort of level. So it will be really interesting to see how the next few weeks go.
Okay, story number 4, Sean. I love talking about gold, and Australia's biggest gold miner, Newcrest, has outlined a 16% drop in pre-tax profit, but they're pretty upbeat about the future, really. They're saying that production is going to lift by 8% this financial year.
And that was enough to send Newcrest's share price up nearly 4% on Friday. Newcrest has had 3 years in a row of declining production. Last year it mined around 2 million ounces of gold. That's always dragged on its share price, though. It's just the fact that it's going backwards on the production side of things. But Newcrest has been spending on growth options and it's starting to come through. Its flagship mine in Cadia, Central West New South Wales, is past its peak production point. So it's trying to find other sources of gold. For example, recently it purchased Canada's Bruce Jack mine for $2.8 billion. Newcrest is pretty confident it can turn things around and start producing more gold.
All right, finally, story number 5, Sean. Qantas boss Alan Joyce has sent a video to frequent flyers apologising for flight cancellations, for delays and for lost baggage, and offering a $50 discount for some flights.
He said Qantas had experienced a 50% jump in sick leave due to COVID-19 and influenza, but the airline's performance still wasn't good enough. Mr. Joyce said Qantas has hired 1,500 people since April and will keep hiring. Flight schedules have also been adjusted, and most of its 14 million frequent flyers will be gifted a $50 travel credit. Now, federal government data for July shows Qantas's on-time performance rate was just over 50% for arrivals and departures last month. That's pretty shocking. And more than 6% of flights were cancelled. It certainly needs to do something.
There we go. That's it. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Monday, the 22nd of August, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough for you, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.